An old janitor was cleaning the school hallway late one evening when he heard soft crying coming from an empty classroom. He walked in to find a young girl sitting alone, surrounded by math homework, tears streaming down her face. Without asking who she was or why she was upset, he simply sat down next to her and spent 2 hours patiently explaining algebra and geometry. He had no idea this girl was the principal's daughter. What happened next would change not just her life, but the entire school, and would restore his faith in the power of kindness. Thomas Wright was 67 years old and had been a janitor at Lincoln High School for 32 years. He came to work at 5 p.m. every evening and left at midnight, cleaning classrooms, hallways, bathrooms, and the cafeteria. Most students and teachers barely noticed him. He was invisible, just the old man who mopped floors and emptied trash cans. But Thomas hadn't always been a janitor. In his younger years, Thomas had been a high school math and science teacher. He'd loved working with students, watching their faces light up when they finally understood a difficult concept. He'd won awards for his teaching. He'd changed thousands of young lives. Then his wife got sick. Her medical bills drained their savings. Thomas had to leave teaching to find work that paid better quickly. He became a janitor, and the better-paying job had allowed him to care for his wife until she passed away 5 years ago. After her death, Thomas could have retired. He had enough money to live simply. But he'd stayed at Lincoln High because the school had become his second family. He knew the hallways. He knew the rhythms of the academic year. Cleaning the school gave him purpose. Most people at the school didn't know Thomas's history. They saw him as just an older janitor doing basic work. Some teachers weren't kind to him. Some students disrespected him. But Thomas never complained. He just did his job with dignity and quiet compassion. The principal of Lincoln High was a woman named Dr. Margaret Chen. She was strict, professional, and demanding. She'd been principal for 7 years and had transformed the school's test scores through rigorous discipline and high standards. Students and teachers either respected her or feared her, sometimes both. Dr. Chen's daughter was named Sophie, and she was struggling. Sophie was a bright girl, but she had severe anxiety about math. She was a junior in high school, and her math grade was dropping. She felt stupid and ashamed. She didn't want to ask for help because she was the principal's daughter and worried people would judge her for not understanding something so easy. Her mother pushed her hard. "You have to do better, Sophie. People are watching because I'm the principal. You need to be an example." The pressure only made Sophie's anxiety worse. One Tuesday evening, Sophie stayed late at school with her math homework. She sat in an empty classroom, staring at her algebra problems, feeling more and more hopeless. The numbers on the page started blurring. Her chest felt tight. She started crying. She didn't hear Thomas enter the classroom until he spoke gently. "Hello there. Are you okay?" Sophie looked up, startled. She saw the old janitor standing there with his mop and bucket. She felt embarrassed about crying in front of him. "I'm fine," she said, wiping her tears. "I'm just frustrated with my homework." Thomas set down his mop and looked at the notebook on her desk. He saw the algebra problems and smiled. "Algebra," he said. "That's my old subject. I taught math for many years before I became a janitor." Sophie looked shocked. "You taught math?" "I sure did," Thomas said kindly. "For 32 years. May I look at your homework?" Sophie hesitated. She didn't know this man, but something in his gentle manner made her trust him. She showed him her problems. Thomas studied the first problem carefully. "Okay, I see what's happening. You're not understanding the order of operations. Let me explain it a different way than your textbook probably did." For the next 2 hours, Thomas sat with Sophie and went through each problem step by step. He didn't just give her the answers. Instead, he asked her questions that helped her understand the concepts. He used simple language. He explained why the math worked the way it did, not just how to do it. More importantly, he was patient and kind. He never made her feel stupid. He celebrated when she figured something out. He encouraged her when she doubted herself. "You know what I notice?" Thomas said during their session. "You're smarter than you think you are. You're just nervous. When you're calm and thinking clearly, these problems aren't so hard. Your brain is perfectly capable of understanding this." Sophie felt something shift inside her. Someone had actually believed in her. Someone had taken time to help her without expecting anything in return. By the time they finished, Sophie's homework was complete, and more importantly, she understood the material. She felt confident instead of hopeless. "Thank you so much," Sophie said as Thomas packed up his things. "You have no idea how much this helped." "You're welcome, young lady," Thomas said with a warm smile. "You're going to do great. Just remember, you're smarter than your anxiety tells you." Thomas went back to his cleaning duties. Sophie gathered her homework and left, feeling lighter than she had in weeks. Over the next month, Sophie stayed late twice a week at school. Each time she asked Thomas for help with her math. Each time, Thomas patiently sat down with her and guided her through the problems. Sophie's math grade improved, but more importantly, her confidence grew. She went from avoiding math to actually enjoying it. She started sitting in the front row in class. She raised her hand during discussions. She got a B on her next test. Dr. Chen noticed the improvement. She asked Sophie what had changed. Sophie, nervous about how her mother would react, initially hesitated, but then she told her everything, about how a janitor named Thomas had helped her, had believed in her, had spent hours teaching her. Dr. Chen was shocked. She'd had no idea this was happening. She'd never really paid attention to the janitor who cleaned her school each night. The next week, Dr. Chen did something unexpected. She arranged a special assembly. She brought Thomas to the front of the school and announced to every student and teacher what he had done. "This man," Dr. Chen said, pointing to Thomas standing uncomfortably in his janitor uniform, "and has been the heart of this school for 32 years. He was a teacher once, and he still carries that teacher's heart. He helped my daughter understand that she was smarter than she believed. He gave her confidence when she had none, and he did it without asking for recognition or reward." The entire school, every student, every teacher, stood up and applauded Thomas. He was embarrassed and moved, tears streaming down his face. Dr. Chen continued, "We often don't notice the people who work the hardest to make our lives better. This man deserves better than our invisibility. Thomas, I want to offer you a position as an official tutor here at Lincoln High. We'll create a new role, Learning Support Specialist. You'll help students who are struggling, and we'll pay you a salary that reflects your value. You can choose your own hours." Thomas was speechless. Sophie, sitting in the audience, was smiling and crying. Thomas accepted the position. The school created a small office for him where students could come for help. The demand was immediate. Dozens of students needed help, not just with math, but with building confidence and overcoming learning challenges. Thomas spent the next 3 years in this new role. He helped hundreds of students. He became famous in the community as the janitor who changed lives through patience and belief in young people. Sophie graduated with honors. In her graduation speech, she thanked Thomas specifically, telling the entire school how he'd saved her when she felt hopeless. She said she was going to college to study education because she wanted to help students the way Thomas had helped her. Thomas became the teacher he'd always been meant to be, officially recognized this time, properly compensated and deeply appreciated. Dr. Chen completely changed her leadership approach. She began recognizing and thanking the behind-the-scenes workers, custodians, cafeteria staff, security guards, and maintenance people. She implemented a new policy where all staff members were treated with equal respect and included in school celebrations. The school's culture transformed. Students became kinder to the people they'd previously ignored. Teachers began recognizing that everyone contributed to making the school run. When Thomas turned 70, the school held a special retirement celebration. Former students he'd tutored came back. Teachers he'd worked with for decades thanked him. Parents shared stories about how he'd helped their children. "I came to this school as a teacher," Thomas said during his farewell speech, his voice shaking with emotion. "Then I became a janitor. I never expected to be a teacher again, but you gave me that gift. And what I learned is this: it doesn't matter what title you have. What matters is how you treat people. A janitor can change a life just as much as a principal can. Kindness doesn't require a position or a salary. It requires only a willing heart." The powerful lesson echoes beyond one school. Kindness and genuine care for others never go unnoticed by the people who need it most. We often judge people by their jobs and ignore their true value. Thomas was invisible as a janitor, but his compassion and knowledge were invaluable. When we recognize the worth in every person, we create communities of respect and care. Sophie's story reminds us that struggling doesn't mean you're failing. It means you need support. And Thomas's story reminds us that giving support with no expectation of reward is the truest form of kindness. In the end, the person who helped the most was a man in a janitor's uniform. What happens next? This story shows us that heroes don't wear capes or have important titles. Sometimes they wear janitor uniforms and carry mops. The most meaningful impact we can have on others often comes through simple acts of kindness and genuine care. Have you ever received unexpected help from someone who asked for nothing in return? Have you ever helped someone without knowing how much it mattered? Like this video and subscribe to our channel for more heartwarming stories about kindness, unexpected connections, and ordinary people making extraordinary differences. Hit that notification bell right now so you never miss our inspiring uploads. Comment below. Tell us about a time when someone showed you unexpected kindness, or when you helped someone in a way that changed their life. Share your story in the comments. Your story could inspire thousands of people to show more kindness and recognize the value in everyone. Thanks for watching. Thomas's story reminds us that the most valuable people in our lives are often the ones we overlook. Kindness, patience, and genuine care are more powerful than any title or position. See you in the next video, where we'll share another heartwarming story about the unexpected power of human connection.